let's call a spade a spade. Indians love discount, right? And I think we would say that we were foolish at that point in time to underestimate the challenges of what it will take to build. Because see, ideas are dime a dozen, right? It's all about how you execute. So one of the things that we are very proud of at Dineout is that our discounts were always uncapped, and that means that we've had people who thrown parties and had spent bill of 1 lakh, 1.5 lakhs, and if it's a 20% discount, they save 15,000, 30,000, whatever it is.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Voice of Visionaries. In today's episode, we sit with Ankit Mehrotra. He is a co-founder of Dineout and now another company, TMTC, that's the medical travel company, the world's first full-service medical travel platform. So, from you discovering how India's dines right into the reimagining how world will access the healthcare, Ankit will share a powerful journey of building trust at a scale. You're reinventing after the success of a dine out again, and everything we'll try to cater in this episode. So we'll understand from Ankit what is his founder journey and what is the key drivers. It is something that he is trying to build more and more, right? So today's conversation is all about his vision, his resiliency, and redefining what's possible, right? So it is for many more aspiring people who want to build something on their own. So welcome, Ankit. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Savan. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Yeah, it's great to be here, and a big welcome to all the viewers as well. And yeah, hopefully it promises to be an interesting discussion and chat.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. So let's start from the beginning, Ankit. So I would really like to understand your early foundation, your early journey, right? How you grew up, what's the curiosity, and then you went to London, right? That was a again
Yes.
important part of your life, right? So what is your journey before become the founder?
Yeah. So you've taken me back a long way. Um, yeah. So born and brought up in Delhi.
Okay.
I moved to the UK to actually do my undergrad in telecoms and so computers and telecom engineer. So I'm an engineer by profession. But it was one of those funny things where I told my parents that, so my parents were like, how typically growing up in the 90s and late 90s and early 2000 science and then engineering. So that was the
Yes.
typical background for me. I studied for IIT, didn't get through. Then, my parents said, no, I have to do engineering. So I told my parents, okay, I'll do a trade-off with you. I will complete my engineering degree, but that is the last time I have anything to do with engineering. So it just things happened like that. So I moved to the UK. I did my computers and telecom engineering from the University of Essex. And the day I graduated, I decided that that's it. I don't want to do anything related to engineering. I always had a passion for numbers and finance, and I thought that's what I want to build a career in. So actually, for 1 year after graduation, I was in London, doing odd jobs here and there, bartending, waiting, etc. But I wanted to build and teach myself the concepts of finance. So I did.
Okay.
I learned. I studied by myself for 1 year to make sure that I'm able to sort of get the basics of finance, because I was very sure that the best way to do finance is to actually work either in the
Yes.
financial industry. And I was very sure that I wanted to sort of by that time, this is 2005, 2006. So enamored by investment banking in the heart of London was a hub of finance at that point of
Correct.
time. So I wanted to make sure that I had built a career in that. So spent a year teaching finance to myself, and then eventually I remember in 2005 and 6 I applied to nearly 200 companies in the financial space, so all investment banks, all big fours, all consulting firms, everything. And then eventually I was lucky enough to sort of get a job with BNP Paribas. So BNP Paribas is one of largest Europe's largest bank, and
Yep.
it's France's largest bank. They were a giant in the whole investment banking, wealth management space, and that's how my career started. So 2006 is when I joined BNP Paribas on the graduate training program, and this was again very important because every year most banks only had 4 or 5 positions on the graduate training program, And the advantage of that is that you get to actually rotate over multiple over the next 2 to 3 years. You get to rotate over all their sort of different divisions, and you get to learn investment banking from the ground up. Plus, at that point in time, it was a huge challenge of getting visas and sponsoring work visas. So, with a bank was naturally doing that. So I had to make sure that I was competing with, and I did, as I said, I did only a bachelor's of engineering from University of Essex, and I was competing at that time with people from Cambridge and Oxford and LSEs and all the best universities out there. So it was a tough sort of hard work to make sure that I was able to stand myself out and manage to get this job, which I successfully did. And then from there on, it was a great few years I had. So I worked with BNP Paribas from 2006 to early 2006 to end of, I think, 2011. So nearly a good 5.5 6 years.
Right. Yeah.
And in that and in that I learned multiple things. So I worked in investment banking, I worked in forex trading, I worked in wealth management, etc., which actually gave me a full rounded view of finance as a category overall. But I also did my CFA charter holder. So in those 5 years I managed to sort of study and get my CFA charter, which coming from a non finance background was a huge sort of, I would say, deal and achievement.
Yep.
But I think while all of this was happening, and it was a great lifestyle. Don't get me wrong. At the age of 20, my starting salary at that point in time, back in the day, was roughly around 45 or £1,000. So it was a very good,
Yes.
sort of very good money. And this again, I'm talking about, for someone who has just gone from India, living with parents, to university now, to an investment bank. It was a great lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I think what happened during that time, one of the most pivotal moments, obviously for me, was the 2008 financial crisis.
Ah.
So it's, going back in the day. I think not a lot of people have experienced it, but it was actually absolute mayhem and madness what was happening because of that entire subprime crisis, subprime mortgage issue. And London, being the financial hub of the world, was massively impacted. um, Overnight banks were collapsing, and you never know, when you turn up next morning, what's going to happen. In fact, I had a lot of
Yeah.
friends at Lehman Brothers, etc., where the next day they turned up and the bank doesn't exist. So it was very difficult and harrowing times. Plus, also the challenge had become at that point in time that there was mass layoffs happening, and as a result of that, you found yourself working 14 to 16-hour days, because you now knew that someone with 3x more your 3x of your experience, who has been laid off and will now is ready to work at your salary or lesser than your salary. So it, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, the market was flooded with people, sort of, basically, who had been working 15, 20 years, their job gone overnight. So that to me was a very sort of a impactful moment, because I realized two things: that, okay, if I'm going to be working 14, 16 hour days, do I want to be working for someone else, or actually building impact for me? Because the point is that there is no stability, right? A one night or one event can sort of spoil your career of the last 15, 20 years. So if you want to do that, then why not do it for yourself? And that, for me, eventually started building on the whole thought process of doing something for yourself. And eventually,
Mm.
as I said, I was studying for my CFA. It typically takes anywhere between 4 to 5 years to clear the exams and get the CFA charter. So in September of 2000, so I gave my level 3 exam in June, in June of 2011. In August, and I still remember this date very vividly, because it was probably one of the turning points in my life. 11th August is when I gave my exam, when I got my result, where
Okay.
which I had, which sort of meant I passed my level 3. And basically, that's the day I resigned, and I moved back to India in September 2011 to start working on Dyna. And yeah, I can
Oh,
cover a bit more
nice.
about how the journey
Absolutely.
as well started. But
Okay, so you were saying about, London is a, financial hub, and second thing, that 2008 crisis was the spark into you that, you should think something for your own self, right? So I think
yeah,
so I just want to understand more. So when you were in India and then you shift to the UK, so what exactly that London or UK help you to understand, in terms of what is the system, what is the process, what are the operations? Because as you said, right, you did some odd jobs and then you get into the banking, investment banking, and all, right. So at that time, what was your learning in terms of process and systems?
and you are taking me back, long ways in this thing. So I think two sort of incidents or two things stand out in my mind, sort of from my time in the UK, and in London, which specifically sort of shaped up my
Yep.
sort of professional career, and then my time at Dino. So I think the first and foremost is growing up in India, and especially again as I said back in the day, it was all about studying is the number one thing. So study hard. You have to then become an engineer. You have to do all of that. So when I first went to university there, meeting with the students from different nationalities, etc. I think I realized that there is life just beyond being an engineer, right? And people over there, I had a lot of friends who were
Mm.
following their passion in music, in arts, in sports, and different things. So that was one lesson that sort of stood out for me, that you don't have to be sort of bounded by anything, and that you can sort of go above and beyond, and follow your passion or your interest. So that was the first thing that sort of then defined my journey as an entrepreneur. I think the second thing which I learned, which according to me was the most important thing, is that actual environment, everything, it removed the fear of failure. So, and
Okay.
this again,
Okay.
I'm talking about from 2000, 2005 perspective. It was always about, oh, what's going to happen if you don't, study hard, you don't get the best marks, you don't get the best jobs. It was very set career path. And after having got a job, after having everything, I realized that, if if I don't do this tomorrow, nothing's going to change. Like, so I think removing that fear of failure, the way, the teachings happen, the way everything happens, I think that was the most important thing which probably sort of shaped my entrepreneurial journey, and then my subsequent sort of lifestyle and everything.
Okay, okay, that's a great answer, Ankit. But Ankit, one more follow-up question into that. You pointed out very important thing is regarding that the fatigue of a secure job and our routine lifestyle and everything, right?
Yeah.
So you have mentioned that one is the 2008 crisis where you start thinking about yourself, right? If there is no job, or then what to do, right? And at that time, many layoffs happened, right? Experienced people and all, right? You mentioned, right? As well, the same situation we seen during the COVID, right? And just after COVID, the new AI wavelength is altogether
Yeah.
started, right? So again, we are in the same situation where many layoffs are happening. So is it something when such kind of crisis will come, right? uh, at least out of the mass, there are a couple of people who break the barrier, whatever the fatigue they have in mind, everything they break it out and go one step ahead to build
So
something on their own. Is it?
yeah, absolutely. So if you actually look at the history of the world for the last 120, 150 years, right? All great companies have been formed just after periods of great economic and financial crisis. So we
Yeah,
had the we
that's
had
true.
the two we had the two we had the 2000 and 2000 financial, the ecom, the bubble burst, and then you had companies like sort of Amazon, Google, etc., that came out. Post the 2008 2009 crisis, we had some great companies come out again. 2020, some the COVID, great companies have been born. So my point is that, or at least my learning, my understanding is that periods of great financial and economic stress forces people out of their comfort box, and
Yeah.
the best, the guys who out of them definitely are able to sort of come out of, are able to build something because they sense an opportunity, and it's going to keep happening. Like, so these, whether 2000 ecom, 2000 ecom bust, or the 2008 financial crisis, 2020 COVID, these were all black swan events,
Yeah.
once in a sort of thing, and these events force people to sort of, introspect, force people to sort of question what they've been doing, and essentially, question a lot of the choices that they're making, and build, and then they sort of come out of that bubble with something new. So so that's the mindset that at least I come with, and I think as the world progresses, as time progresses, it's going to become easier and easier, right?
Yeah.
2000 we had no internet, or the internet was coming up. 2008, 2009, no, there was no sort of social media. It was just then post that coming up. Now again, COVID, after COVID we have the whole AI wave. So technology is becoming advanced,
Yeah.
and it'll become a lot easier to people, for people to to discover and crack on opportunities, is what I firmly feel. And for us also, right, 2008, like, that is when the seed, that's when the mind started turning, that do I need to do this? It's not as if
Yeah.
something happened immediately, but then after that I was always on the lookout for opportunities as to what can I do. And then in November of 2010, basically BNP Paribas, so as a bank we were working on a deal where OpenTable was buying out a UK company called Top Table. And
Okay.
OpenTable, we know, was the largest restaurant tech platform in the world. Top Table
Correct.
was
Correct.
the
Correct.
UK equivalent. And I was on that deal. And when we were sort of then looking at that deal closely, I realized that, it's a great model. Something like this doesn't exist in India. As the world is opening up, people are going to dine a lot more. So earlier, let's say in the early 2000, dining out was more of a, let's say, just a occasion led thing. And
Okay.
slowly, being in London, I saw the shift happening from an occasion led thing to an experience led thing. People start dining out more and more, and I could sense that that wave is going to come in India as well. And no platform like this existed in India. So I called up my co-founder Sahil, who was also my childhood friend from nursery, and then he
Oh,
was in the
nice.
US at that. He was in the US at that point in time. So he had done his MBA from IMK, and then he had moved to the US. So he was in Seattle, and November of 2010 is when I sort of called him up with this idea. Yeah, this is a model that I'm working on. I think it looks exciting. Nothing like this exists in the Indian ecosystem. It's basically, you don't, it's an asset light model where you build on an existing infrastructure and just get build, bring or build awareness. So he said, "Yeah, sounds interesting. Let me look at some research." And then he, went back. And then 1 month later, he called me and said that, so this is December now, 2010. He called me and said, "Yeah, great model. I think I love it. I want to do this. And I've quit my job and I'm moving back to India." So, and eventually Sahil moved back to India in February of 2011. So I think that was the catalyst when we first thought, okay, that, now this could become something, or this is something that we could see ourselves doing,
Okay.
because see, ideas are dime a dozen, right? It's all about
Mm-hmm.
how you execute them, and the first step towards execution is sort of, deciding in your mind that you want to make a change. And then, as Sahil quit his job and sort of move back, so that to me was the pivotal moment for our dine out journey in December 2010.
But Ankit, just one more point into that. You mentioned that once you were working on the open table deal, and then you thought of this is something great idea. Such kind of business model is not there in India, right? So at that time, what was your all this sketchboard thing, all the paperwork and all key? Why it is something the great to be there in India? Some pointers would be there, right? When you start doing everything on sketchboard, right?
So, I would like to say that, that's the way we did things. But honestly, I think the evolution or journey of an entrepreneur has also become a lot more evolved. And
Yeah,
now when you see people, you want to see business plans and, ideas and all. At
correct,
that
correct.
time, we had one very simple thought. So I used to come back to India, like, 3 4 times every year. Sahil used to come back to India, and we invariably ended up going to the same restaurant, or same set of 3 or 4 restaurants, because that those were the restaurants that were in our circle of influence, and people did not want to try new
Hmm.
restaurants. So new restaurants were opening sort of, weekly, but we were afraid of trying new restaurants because you don't want to have a bad experience, or you don't know the food, or you don't, you're spending a lot of money, and then you don't want to sort of anything to go wrong. So people always tend to go back to the same restaurants. Whereas in London, we were trying out new restaurants. It was a more of a social activity, and I think that was one change that we thought will come to India, that people will eventually start going out and discovering new restaurants, and no platform existed for something like this, and that
Okay.
is essentially what sort of led us down this journey.
Oh, got it. Got it. Absolutely great. So now when you and Sahil came back to India, right? Is it something that after coming here you start even before going to another question? I just want to answer at that point of time around 2010, building the application or a web interface that was also challenging, right? It was not that easy or accessible like the way it is right now, right?
Not,
So
yeah,
you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
were
So
confident and on that part as well?
no, no. So I think we would say that we were foolish at that point in time to underestimate the challenges of what it will take to build something. Because at that point in time, in our mind, it was that just that one thought, yeah, कुछ करना है. This is what you want to do. We'll figure out how it will be done. We had
Hmm.
honestly so we were 26 at that point in time, all of us. And in fact, the interesting story is that once we so I moved back to India in September 2011. Sahil was already here, and then once we moved back, we were joined by two more of our school friends, Vivek and Nikhil, who again we had known each other from nursery. And Vivek had never stayed in India also after school, so he was in the merchant navy. He had been sailing for 10 years,
Oh.
and Nikhil was in India. So the four of us, at the age of 26, decided to get together and said, quit our jobs and do this. And the first thought that funny story. Well, the first thought that our parents so all our parents, obviously, because we had grown up together since nursery, were friends. So we had four sets of parents sitting together and thinking that these boys have gone mad. And their first and only concern was that तुम लोग से शादी कौन करेगा? So we don't care what you do. We have to get you married. And within 1 year of starting Dine Out, three of us were married. So those were the challenges at that point that one had to deal with. These days, obviously, entrepreneurship has become cool. People want to put on a CV, etc. Right? But at that time, 2010, 11, no one had no one had thought. In fact, it was the flip side. Oh, you guys are all well settled, having great corporate jobs, and you want to
Yes,
quit
correct.
your
Yeah.
jobs, have come back to India, and you want to do your own business. Who the hell do you think you are? You are not from a business background. What what you don't have business. So it was all of this stereotypical sort of questions where all of a sudden different relatives were crawling out from different parts of the world and just trying to tell you what the hell are you doing, right? That sort of a thing. So we had absolutely kuch plan. It was just that we had to build a business and we wanted to do this. We honestly at that point didn't think too much, okay, how is it going to work, etc. And
Hmm.
we had our savings at that point in time, again, because I said we all had worked for 6 7 years, so we had a decent amount of savings which we thought we will invest, and that's how we started. Like things like words like bootstrap and all is what you hear now, but at that
Yeah,
point in
yeah,
time we
yeah.
didn't know any of these concepts.
Correct, correct, correct. Absolutely, that's true. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so you four met and start thinking to build Dine Out, right? So afterwards, how much time it will take to make the things at least live for the customer? At least some first MVP model or maybe the
Yeah,
first prototype model. Yeah.
so I think this is a learning that we had very early on. So we started. I came back to India in September, and we immediately started working on it. And for us, that working involved, so on one side, we'd obviously found an agency to help build our platform, but from a tech perspective, design perspective, but also we started going meeting restaurants, and
Okay.
this is we are meeting 50-year-old people who've been running their restaurants for the last 20 30 years, and they are like, why the hell do I need some online platform? What are you guys going to do? Matlab, कल के the exact one of the few of them say कल के चोकर that is that typical thing. So it was one of those things, right, that people were like, oh, we don't need something like this, who's going to use it, etc. So we for 2 3 months we just went around circles, not knowing when to go live, what, etc. At that point in time, I think we decided that, okay, this way we are not going to end up anywhere. So we actually put a deadline to ourselves that 29th February 2012, it happened to be a leap year as well. So
Yeah.
29th February 2012 is when we decided that we are going to make the platform live this day. Whatever happens, whether we have 5 restaurants or 50 restaurants, doesn't matter. So I think as soon as we had that target in mind, we started working backwards from it, and then making sure that everything gets sort of built and is ready for that. So finally, 29th February came, and then we went live with 75 restaurants on the platform
Wow.
only. So it was
In Delhi, right?
when you in Delhi, yeah, in Delhi. So in
Yep.
Delhi, especially specifically South Delhi. So when you think about it now, it just you know what is going to happen with 75 restaurant. But we believe that that was the that was that first that helped us get off the block essentially.
Yep. But actually, this is very, very important and true story as well. Because see, even for this YouTube podcast, we were procrastinating because we'll do that and we'll do that and all of a sudden we said, let's start it. Right? We start with a one video, and I think
Yeah,
the very first we recorded with our CEO for Fast Enough, right? So he turned up and he said, "Yes, I'll come." And it was just like first time we just take a one step ahead. Okay, let's do it. And we put, as you mentioned, right? We put a deadline. Okay, in this 1 month, we have to record one video with this founder. We did it, and after that, everything was automatically started. Now everyone is working their own task. Everyone know what to do and how to plan it out. In what are the time frame we have to work on. So it is very important. Just take one step and do
yeah,
it
yeah. The
because
first step,
75.
the first step is always the hardest, right? And that's
Yep.
when we procrastinate a lot. That's when we have a lot of doubts, challenges, thoughts, whether what's going to happen, is the business going to work, not work. But as soon as you take that, then you know that now that I'm on this journey, we'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yes, absolutely correct, correct. And again, just minor and quick. Whenever you face this hesitant from the restaurant people, some old people, right? What do you answer to them? How you convince them?
I think honestly, it was difficult at that point in time because our thought was that we are building a marketing platform for restaurants where
Hmm.
they will get more consumers, and they were like, "Oh, nay, we're already full. We have enough people. How will you send us?" So I think at that point in time, our only thought to them was, "कि sir, try to karo. क्या पता आ जाए,
Yes,
extra आ जाएगा." So they were not paying us anything upfront to become a part of the platform. So then that's how we met a few restaurateurs who sort of agreed, who were progressive looking, and from there on, from 5, 10, 25, 70, we got to 75 to make live. And that is also in fact a great lesson that we learned on day one. So here, 2012 February, we had built a pure online platform because that is what Sahil was using in the US, I was using in the UK, in London. So we were building, we were using digital online platforms to make reservations, etc. And we thought that that is going to work in India. So 29th February we went live, and on 1st March we realized that, oh my god, pure online is not going to work in India, because this is again still where internet penetration is still happening in India. It's not that great. So we had
yes,
to
correct.
pivot to a call. We had to pivot and set up a call center on the second day, where we had to go by, get phone lines, etc. So I think that for us was a pivotal moment, and a lesson, I would say, which stood us through the test of time, is that on the first day, after speaking to 20 people, we realized that India is not an environment that was pure online at that point in time. Just Dial was very big. People were calling Just Dial. Everything was happening on Just Dial, where people were calling to get information. And we realized that if we have to do anything, then we also need to do the same. So that's how we ended up setting up our, that first call center. And till the end of Dineout, we always, till the Swiggy acquisition, we had a call center in place where consumers would come, could reach out and reserve tables. So in fact, not Swiggy, but like till COVID, we had a call center. Post COVID, it pivoted completely online. But from 2012 to 2020, we actually had a call center which helped customers a lot.
Okay, that's a great thing. And so from 75, restaurant on board to the, I think when Swiggy acquired. So what is that number in terms
We
of
had around
restaurant
we
and
had
footfall?
50,000, yeah, 50,000
50,000
restaurants,
restaurant across 30,
and we were,
40 cities, right?
yeah, yeah, I think 42 odd cities, and we were probably doing, I think, around 6.5, 7 million diners a month.
Yeah. Okay. 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 6 million active users, the diners, right? They are using your application. It's a really big number, right?
So yeah, yeah. So it was across B2B and B2C, but
B2C and B, yeah.
we were recording 6 million consumer visits at restaurants, six
Yeah.
to 7 million consumer visits to restaurants every month.
And how you bifurcate B2C and B2B into that?
So um, again, in our entire journey, as I said, we started off as pure online table reservation, but then we evolved. We launched our app. We added payments. We added subscription
Government.
products. But we also realized
Yeah.
that we need to go deep into the restaurants' lives, restaurants' journey to see where we can add value, and that's what led us to build multiple B2B products as well, where we had CRM, Investo or POS, which is the Torcus. So overall, in the entire journey, as I said, we were doing recording close to, I would say, 75, 80 million consumers a month, sorry, annually, where
Okay.
probably 30%, so 20, so roughly 20, 25 million were transacting on the consumer app
Pay. Yeah.
and paying through the app, and the rest 50 odd million were the ones who were visiting restaurants, but we were getting all the information as to who visited what restaurant, what was the bill value, etc. So we were amassing huge amounts of data for the restaurant industry.
Okay. And can you just brief also on the scaling part because it takes almost a decade time, right, to scale to this
Yeah.
number. Acquisition is in 22, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So 12 to 22 in this decade, how you scale the Dineout?
So I think the first few years are always about trying to find the model that works for the business. You make multiple changes, etc. So in, as I said, 2012 we went on, started online, but then had a call center
Yeah.
immediately. That helped us grow a bit. Then end of 14 is when we first, that was when the mobile ecosystem was took off. So Dino, we launched,
Hmm.
because we were obviously at the end of the day, a hyper local sort of a business where people need to discover restaurants mostly around them. We launched a mobile app in 2015, early 15, and that was the next phase of growth that sort of prompted that prompted basically the next phase of growth. And then I think, so I would say, let's say, when we launched our call center, and we were probably, by before launching our mobile app, we were doing around 20,000 diners a month. Post the
Okay.
launch of the mobile app, we scaled that up to probably around 50 to 75,000 diners a month. The next phase of growth
Okay.
happened after, just after demonetization, actually, when we launched our payment, so Dine Out Pay. And essentially,
Yeah.
what we said is that consumers could pay through the Dine Out app at their favorite restaurants to get to get discounts, etc. That, and we were a collection of all payment methods, so whether it be credit card, debit card, UPI just launched, net banking, whatever, all payment methods aggregated together to facilitate digital payment at the restaurant. That again was a different level. That prompted us from probably around 75 thousand people monthly to maybe a million and a half people, and then we grew from there. So what I'm saying is that as the evolution of a company, right, there'll always be these stages where you actually cross a barrier and go towards the next level of growth exponentially. So it takes time to find that, but that is what event
Yeah.
over a period of time we were able to do that.
And especially in Dineout Pay, is it something because Dineout is already having heavy partnership with tons of restaurant, so because of the discount, people would not like to paying through any other app but the Dineout Pay, right? That was the advantage, I think, with the app itself.
So yeah. So the let's call a spade a spade. Indians
Yeah.
love discount, right? And over a
That's a
period of
fact. Yeah.
years, over a period of multiple years, we thought that discount, we have to stay away from the narrative of discount. It's not the best thing, but eventually, what we realized is that people love discount. So and especially discount at a restaurant is more of like a, I would say, a chip on your shoulder or showing off ki, oh, I go normally and I get 20% discount, you don't. So it's a way of showing off, it's about feeling good, it's about
Yeah.
instant gratification, it's about
Yeah.
saving money on every transaction. So I think that, with that thought and mindset in place, we wanted to make sure that we were the platform that ensured that we gave the best discount to our consumers at every time. And eventually, the way the discounts worked was that it was three levels of discounting which ensured that we were able to give the best discount. The first level obviously was the restaurant led discount, but this was always
Yeah.
not the entire thing. It was a part of it. The second level of discounting came from a lot of our, so we had a lot of banking partners. So we did,
Yeah.
one of the things that we did right was, we got banking partners on board, and our partnership with HDFC and especially Infinia is legendary. That when we got on board them
Mm.
on board, consumers were getting a flat 15% off up to 1000 rupees every time
Yeah.
they dined out. So it was the restaurant discount on top of the bank discount, and then on top of that, Dine Out was giving a discount to users to use. So by the end of it, consumers were able to save 30 to 40% in most transactions, and that actually just helped us sort of grow massively, because it was a lot of real saving. And again, what I one of the things that we are always proud of, the fact that our savings were always the true savings. So today,
Yeah.
everyone says I
That's
have
true.
30, 40, 50% discount, but it's always with an asterisk that capped at 100, 200, 500. Whether it's food delivery, whether it's travel, whether it's hotels, everywhere there's a capped amount. With Dine Out, the
It's
one of
up
the
to just
true
50 rupees or 100 rupees. It
100 rupees.
sounds like if X number of percentage, but ultimately it's just 50 rupees, right? So that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things that we always ensured was that is actually wrong, misleading marketing the consumer. If we say 20%, it has to be 20%. If we say 40%, it has to be 40%. So the one of the things that we are very proud of at Dineout is that our discounts were always uncapped. And
Oh,
that meant that we've had people who've thrown parties and had spent bill of 1 lakh, 1.5 lakhs, and if it's a 20% discount, they say 15, 30, 15,000, 30,000, whatever it is. So we in fact had a great sort of a social proofing where we used to show the amount saved by the person on the Dineout app, like how much you've saved this year. And we had people who were sharing left, right, and center, because it was a very proud. We had people saving 50,000, 1 lakh, 1.5 lakhs
yeah,
over
yeah,
the entire
absolutely.
year on their dining out bills, which was a big amount. So that for us was like a big validation of what we're doing.
And I think that is the reason, I believe, many people, like people, you start using the application was so fast, so quick. Because I'm telling my experience when I started using the Dineout, over the couple of days or couple of months, I started realizing, like, in nearby your circle, everyone is starting using it because everyone feel it's more convenient. One of the really good thing I like about Dineout was that the UI interface was very easy, uh, absolutely good. Easily you can reach out whatever you want. Second thing, once you go for the booking and pay bill and all, you getting the discount, that seems very authenticate. एक टाइम आया था, people start now expecting यहाँ से पे करेंगे इतना तो डिस्काउंट मिल ही जाएगा. So you
Ah.
can imagine, right? So that was the attachment with the application itself, and because of that, I believe there are tons of people who start using the Dynout so quickly, right? So the scaling part is very sorted, very clear. So now moving toward, so as a founder, you started getting that the gut feeling or the information that now it is the time of the dine out. We spend a decade, we scale the business, we are at there is no one like us in the market, and now it's the time that someone either from the Swiggy and Zomato will going to acquire us. Is it something at any point of time?
No, no. So honestly, we never actually thought like that, because our objective with Dine Out was to, make it really big and to continue growing. And at the peak, as I said, we were doing close to 80 million diners on the platform overall, uh, probably clocking around, you know, more than $500 million of GMV through the platform,
Yep.
bill payment GMV through the platform, right? So we were growing well. We had a great, consumers were loving us. Traction was great. Everything was doing well. But then obviously COVID happened. So
Yeah.
for the first time ever globally in the history of the world, have restaurants shut down. Because before that, even in times of crisis, world wars, etc., restaurants were always a melting pot, a hanging pot, a social place for
That's
people to
correct.
gather and just drown, just sort of socialize. So it had never happened that restaurants had ever shut down. So that was the first sort of a, I would say, a massive, massive speed breaker for us. And we were at that point in a massive juggernaut, 1,000 member team growing rapidly, obviously burning money. and then all of a sudden we went to zero revenue.
Okay.
So it was very difficult times, stressful times, especially the first wave lasted, I think, from March till probably June, July, right? So no
June,
one
July,
knew
yeah.
what is going to, yeah, no one knew what is going to happen, how long is last. So we had to unfortunately let go of one third of the team, reduce our cost. Everyone took a pay cut. So there were multiple things happening. Now that is when the first time we realized that, again, it's a black swan event. We never know when it can happen, but it could be difficult, and if something like this happens again, the business not will not survive. However, so the first thing that we did during COVID was, uh, just put our heads down and figure out how can we make the business stronger. So we made the product better, we cut out a lot of burn, we did multiple things to ensure that once we come out of COVID and once the world starts getting back, we will be becoming profitable a lot more faster. So that was the first thing that we sort of did, built a much better, leaner, stronger, faster product. I think what surprised us and everyone around us was that the wave of revenge consumption after COVID was
Hmm.
so strong that from December 2019 we went into COVID and went to zero obviously in July 2020, and then from July 2020 to December 2020, in 6 months we were 3x of our pre-COVID numbers. That is how strong
Yes.
the revenge consumption phase happened. Then again we went into wave two in April of 21. Again
21.
went
Yeah.
down to nearly only 20, went down to 20% of our numbers. But then December 21 we were 6x of our pre-COVID numbers.
Wow.
So people came back with vengeance. The frequency of dining out became higher. The average bill value became higher because people started splurging a lot, because people were recovering from COVID, from being inside their houses, going through a traumatic experience. So people just want to go, let loose. So at that point in time, we thought, this business can do really well. But obviously, at the back of our mind, we were cognizant of the fact that we had gone through two periods of business becoming zero, and obviously that meant a lot of funding was required. And at that point in time, what had happened is that Zomato had already done their IPO in July 21. So and then obviously Swiggy was planning their IPO. And from a business perspective, we were a very strong point because our frequency of dining out per user had increased from, I think, 4 pre-COVID to around 7 post-COVID. Our ticket size had increased from 2,200 pre-COVID to 3,500 post-COVID, nearly a 50% jump. So business metrics were really good, and that, I think, prompted us. So we got a lot of interest from consumer internet companies, some of the largest consumer internet companies in India at that point in time, because our business was very attractive. We had a very high ticket size, high frequency, great margin, and it made sense for a lot of people to sort of acquire the business. But eventually we started speaking to Swiggy, and then we liked the vision of the founders. We aligned with the management team, the leadership team, and that's how we decided to go ahead with Swiggy, and the sort of acquisition happened.
But if there was no acquisition happened by Swiggy, right? Then at this point of time in 2025, what was the dine out looks like?
So, see, I think it's very difficult to say like that, because obviously Swiggy has been a great partner. We have now
Yeah.
integrated the Swiggy ecosystem, and Dineout exists there as a standalone product. It's doing well. It's going. Again, the GMV is rising. Thousands of people
Yep.
are going
Yeah. Yeah.
are dining out. So I think, I don't know. Like, it could have been better. It could have been worse. But I think definitely dining out has increased massively. In fact, there was a recent report that came out by a couple of research companies and NRAI, which is the National Restaurant Association of India, that as of in 2025 till October, the average the average spend daily has been close to 1,000 crores a day on dining out. So in the
Wow.
entire
That's a
year,
big number.
it's in the entire year is expected to be around roughly 350 odd crore, 350,000 crores, which is roughly 40 billion dollar. So we are already on a
Yep.
trajectory where it's a massive industry. And obviously there will be one platform which will take a lot of the market share, And I think both Swiggy and Zomato are doing a great job to grow that industry and bring more people to use dine out or basically discover restaurants through the app and pay through the app.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we really talked a lot on the dine out, but just one last question, Ankit, is that so as a founder mindset, is it something whenever you have your own startup, should we have that vision or lens that in any of the industry here, what is the ecosystem, right? And where I can place my product into, right? From there, what are the, what is the positioning of the my product, my solution into that ecosystem, that mindset is must for the founder.
So I think it's very difficult on day one to actually have that mindset because, as I said,
Hmm.
right, businesses evolve and pivot very quickly. So I think what is important is more than where can you place your product in the ecosystem and where does it fit. It's important to understand what you represent for the consumer and why will a consumer use you, why will they keep using you again and again, and building for the consumer. So I think the first couple of years for any consumer product company has to be figuring out the right product market fit and working very hard on those metrics. Eventually, if you if you are around long enough, then you fit yourself, you automatically are able to carve a position or a place for yourself in the larger ecosystem. So I think it's very important to figure out consumer positioning rather than ecosystem positioning, because you never know what is again, as things evolve, things happen, right? And then
Correct.
eventually where you end up in the long run, at least when we were building Dineout, we didn't think that okay, whether we want to have get acquired or build IPO or whatever. You just think that you want to build a great product that has great consumer love and that can become a very viable and a large business. So
Yep.
that's how you think about it. That's how that's the journey as founders you embark upon. And to be honest, we also never thought that okay, this is going to happen and we're going to get acquired by Swiggy, because obviously it's a very emotional thing, right? Like you build something for the last 10, 12 years, and then someone wants to go acquire it, which is a proud moment because it obviously it means that you built something of value.
Yep.
But also it's a bittersweet moment because at that point in time, that's not what the objective is. Yeah, you're seeing someone, you're giving away someone which something which you built with a lot of hard work, tear and sweat. So very emotional, bittersweet sort of a moment. It takes a long time mentally to decide as founders what you want to do. And then once you make that decision, then also it is very difficult. Like for example, for us, we went to Swiggy and we were part of the Swiggy ecosystem, building Dineout but we after being in the ecosystem for 2 years, we realized that we don't want to be actually employees and we are founders, right? So
Yeah,
eventually we had to take
that's
the call. We had to take the call to leave Swiggy, leave Dineout behind, and start something from scratch, right? So imagine you growing up your child and after 12 years you're giving that up and leaving it completely in someone's hand. Like that's the mindset you have. So
mm,
obviously very difficult emotionally, physically, it takes a toll and bittersweet moment. But yeah, but that's the life. I guess that's probably one of the better outcomes to have as a founder, so you can't complain much.
mm. You're saying so easily, but I can sense, it's not that easy moment taking that call, right? And as a founder, if you take that call that we are not an employee, we are a founder, so nothing can be inspirational or better than this thing. And that's how the medical travel company born, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Can you just quickly brief about the idea about TMTC?
Yeah, so after Swiggy, me and Sahil, we took some time off to decide what is it that we want to do next, because after
Okay.
working with Swiggy for a couple of years, we realized that we want to be founders again, for sure. However, this time the challenge in front of us was very different. As I said, by the time we left, Dine Out and Swiggy, we were already doing close to 80 million diners annually, nearly 500, $600 million of GMV. So obviously the ambition of any founder is to, whatever they do next, build something bigger and larger than what they have
Yes.
done earlier.
Yeah.
Now at that point in time, the challenge for us was that how do we build something bigger or larger in India then Dineout, which
Mm.
is a much loved consumer product journey. So we looked at multiple spaces. We looked at ed tech, we looked at fintech, we looked at health tech, and we realized that you know edtech has been done to death. It was probably not the best time, 2024, to
Yes.
get into edtech. Fintech, there were already thousands of players across the country, and we had no right to win in that space. But we felt that health overall, health tech, there is still a lot can be done from a global perspective. So one, we were clear that now we want to build a something at a global scale, global platform. The second thing I think for us, more importantly, is that because having lived and worked in London, Sahil in the US, and still having friends abroad, who we were interacting with, and because we were also traveling very regularly, we realized that healthcare actually in India probably has one of the most amazing healthcare infrastructure networks which exist in the world. But we as Indians living in India, we don't truly appreciate it. Whereas
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
whereas globally, especially in the developed world, post COVID, there was a massive strain on in healthcare infrastructure that had been put, where an aging population coupled with rising cost, along with the backlog from COVID, meant that healthcare systems platforms across the globe in the developed world were massively under strain and crumbling. And the prime example, for example, UK with the NHS, um,
Yeah,
COVID coincided with Brexit, meant that the waitlist today are out of order, with nearly 8 million people waiting on a NHS waitlist for surgeries. US, again, massive insurance premiums have gone up massively, along with rising copay costs. Canada has zero private insurance. Australia, again,
correct.
massive waitlist. So overall, the world healthcare infrastructure is under a lot of strain, whereas the flip side has happened in India, where post COVID, the infrastructure develop investment in India in healthcare has gone through the roof. So the amount of PE investment that's come in the last 5 years is unprecedented. Apart from that, there's also been a massive reverse brain drain, where doctors, so in the 80s and 90s, engineers and doctors left India in droves, right?
Yeah.
But those people who left in the 80s and 90s, especially doctors, spent 30, 40 years abroad, and now in the early 2020s, were now post COVID specifically coming back to India, because now they were in their 50s and 60s. Kids have grown up living their own
Settle
lives,
down. Yeah.
etc. So now they were moving back to India to either start their own practices or join some of the leading hospitals, or because the quality of life, obviously life and lifestyle in India is a lot better. Now essentially what this meant is that the overall quality of healthcare in India
Is
rose
improving.
massively. Best practices from across the globe started being implemented, etc., which meant that the Indian healthcare ecosystem was on the rise. So this is what we started. So our thesis was that if India is doing so well, and if the world is struggling, why are people not coming to India, or are people coming to India? We had actually absolutely no idea about that. And that's how we started exploring medical tourism as a category, because we felt that going forward over the next 5 years, people people will travel for healthcare wherever it is available, faster, earlier, at a same quality, at a much more cost effective price.
And even
And we
India's medical treatment is far cheaper than US,
absolutely
Canada, right? That's
absolutely
another
so
advantage we have.
cost, we have a massive advantage in terms of cost without compromising on quality. So those are the
Yes,
two things. And we felt that what we realized is that India already, so medical tourism is not something new, right? People have been traveling outside their home countries for treatments for years. In fact, it's already $100 billion industry today. Surprisingly
no,
for us, when we discovered that India is number 10 in the world today, and already does around $10 billion worth of medical
$10 billion
tourism.
dollars. Yeah, that's correct.
But
Yeah,
10 billion, yeah. But
yeah,
the challenge is that nearly 99% of that business was coming from Africa, Middle East, CIS countries, Bangladesh, etc., less than 1% of the people were coming from the developed countries. And we felt that if India has to grow and establish itself as the, as a medical superpower and the healthcare destination for the world, we need more and more people coming from the developed economy. And that is what now at the medical travel company we are doing. We're building a corridor for medical tourism corridor from the developed world to India, starting with UK, India, for elective surgeries, which include orthopedics, fertility, IVF, gynecology, dental, diagnostics, and wellness. And eventually, we will expand it to other parts of the developed world, including US, Canada, Australia, other parts of Europe. Because the way we look at it, right? 2000 to 2010 was the era of call center outsourcing, and India was at again the
Correct.
front and
Yeah.
center of it. 10 to 20, 10 to 2010 to 2020 was the era of tech outsourcing, and India was again at the front and center of it. We believe
Yes.
that the next decade is all about healthcare outsourcing, and people and India can and should be at the forefront of it. And that is what we are now here trying to build and position ourselves. So our with medical travel company, we're trying to build brand India for healthcare.
So, Ankit, absolutely, really great answer. You have, explained the vision of the TMTC and what is the problem you are trying to solve. But at the same time, what I found one thing is very interesting that if developed country people start coming to India, then not only the TMTC, but overall India will grow in terms of economy, and that would be the big add-on to our GDP, right? So that is absolutely true. And so you were saying overall it's a 100 billion market, and out of them 10 billion market in India, right? So do you think in this market, is it something that we do not have a single platform so basically when we say medical tourism, it includes medical treatment, it include hospitality, it include the traveling part of it, right? Visa and everything and all, right? So is it something that there is no one like a TMTC till now, and it's the first mover advantage you're going to get out of TMTC?
So yeah, no, that's a great question about the state of what happened today. So see, again, as I was saying, right, medical tourism is not something which is new. It already has it's an industry that's been there for a very long time, and there are multiple players in this space who've been operating in this space for the last 7, 8, 10 years. So, however, right, what I think is that the way medical tourism happens currently is the challenge, because today the way it happens is that it's from a patient's perspective, it's unorganized, it's broken, it's agent
Yes.
led, where multiple agents. Yeah, so it is so essentially what we realized is that it's very agent led in both countries. It is very fragmented, and no solution exists for end to end journey for the patient. Because think about a medical tourism journey for a patient, right? They're sitting in their home country, and all of a sudden they decide to go outside for multiple reasons, for cost or the treatment not being available. And then they have to go on a platform and do all the discovery and research themselves, speaking to a doctor in a foreign country without context. You don't know how good or how bad the doctor is.
Yeah.
Then you decide to travel, you come, let's say, to come to India. Then at that point in time, you only the surgery might happen at a great hospital like an Apollo, Max, Fortis, Medanta, whatever it is. But in the entire medical tourism journey, you only spend 20 to 25% of your time inside the hospital. You
Correct.
spend
That's true.
75 to 80% time outside the hospital recovering. Now the problem is that this recovery experience is broken globally, because it happens either at guest houses or hotels, which is not conducive to medical recovery, because you don't get the right food, you don't get the right medicine, the right help in terms of clinical help, physiotherapy, etc. So multiple broken parts. And as a patient or a attendant or the loved one, you are having to constantly look at and figure out all of these things
By your
yourself.
own. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then the biggest problem is that when you go back to your home country after a treatment outside, if anything goes wrong, there is no home country doctor available to look at you, because they don't know what has happened outside in the foreign destination, and they don't want to take the liability. You see, medical field is one of the most highly litigious
Yes.
sort of industry. People just love filing cases, etc. So no doctor wants to take over the owners of something, something that someone else has done, etc. So there were multiple challenges with medical tourism overall as a space and a sector. Now, this is essentially what we wanted to solve, because what we realized is that one of the main reasons why people, obviously do not travel or are afraid to travel is obviously trust. And trust begins from the home country doctor. So now we reimagined the entire medical tourism model completely, and we took an antithesis of what everyone has done till now. So
Okay.
with the medical travel company, the patient's journey begins within the home country, where we have doctors who look at the patient in the UK itself. So that's the first step. A patient is seen by a UK doctor, for a UK specialist, for their, whether it's for orthopedics or for fertility or for whatever it is, right? They are met by a UK doctor. The UK doctor looks at their entire case history, gets all the results from the NHS, and then evaluate, does a fit to fly assessment, that is this patient fit
Mm.
enough to undergo a flight to get a surgery. Once that hurdle is crossed, then the UK doctor is the one who introduces the patient to our Indian counterpart, or the Indian surgeon. Now what we've done in India is is unlike anyone else, where they show 500 hospital and 5,000 doctors. We only work with the top 5 to 8 hospitals, and in every hospital we're only working with the top one or two doctors for that field, who have been who have studied in the UK, trained in the UK, in the NHS or the US, and have come back to India to set up their own
Okay.
practices or join hospital. So that way the trust on the Indian doctor by the UK doctor is very high, because they know that that Indian doctor has a high level of understanding of the way care is delivered in UK. So essentially, then the UK doctor organizes a call between the Indian doctor and the patient's digital triage happens, and the course of the treatment for the patient is decided together, which in most cases patient is happy with, because it's the UK doctor that is saying that, this is the Indian doctor, I trust him, please, you can go to him, right?
Okay. Um, yeah,
So
please.
that trust level is built there. The patient's treatment is decided. The patient then decides to travel, and then we take over as a full service concierge, where we arrange their flights, visas, everything, and the patient comes to India. Now, when the patient comes to India, we actually have a partnership with the airport, where we get them picked up from the aerobridge itself and
Wow.
guided through customs, immigration, and then outside there's a car waiting for them. As soon as and then they come to our center. So one of the most different things that we've done in this space is that we built our own aftercare center, where the patient stays with us pre and post the surgery. Now think of this as a luxury residential five-star Airbnb, where the patient gets 24/7 personal attendant, 6 hot meals a day. Uh, there's a dietitian, nutritionist, all in-house. There is a nurse, a 24/7 doctor, a physiotherapist, all in-house. So a patient post the surgery gets the right medical care and right treatment, which is required to make sure that the efficacy of the surgery is higher, the patient recovers faster, and all of this is built according to UK NHS standard, by which is held by our UK board of doctors overseeing it. Once the patient sees the recovers in India, post 2 to 3 weeks, he travels back to the UK. When he travels back to the UK, two things happen. First, he gets to see the same doctor he
Yeah.
saw before he traveled to India, so that continuity of care is maintained. But the most important thing that we've done, which actually took us the maximum amount of time to launch, was for the first time ever globally, we have launched an insurance product which insures the body part on which the surgery happened in India back in the UK at a private hospital for 12 months post the surgery. Now, this is very powerful and important because essentially what we are telling the
Yeah,
patients is that you, if you come with us, we believe in Indian healthcare, we believe in our partners, we believe in our, systems, and so much that we are willing to underwrite the surgery, and if anything goes wrong, we will take care of it back in your home country. So essentially, that's the level of trust that we've built with the patient. So we've now come up with a full 360-degree model for patient journey and patient care. And we believe that healthcare, along with hospitality, is the future of healthcare. And we want to make sure that we are able to provide that from day one to the patient. So that's the full
wow.
360-degree model of the medical travel company, which ensures that we are different from what everyone has done till date, but also ensures that we are able to build um, trust and care at scale.
Yeah. Wow, Ankit. A couple of more questions on the TMTC, Ankit.
Yeah.
So what is the most reliable channel for acquiring the qualified, patients, international patients, right? And what is the hardest part of the funnel itself in the complete process?
So see, I think healthcare is again a very sort of a high trust industry, right? So it's
Yes,
not as if this entire business is going to be a digital business. It's a people first, interaction first, uh,
business. Yeah.
trust first business. So we do a lot of on ground events. We do a lot of direct interaction with the patients, etc., which helps us sort of build, which helps us get patients. We also work with a lot of doctors and private GP practices in the UK, which help us get a patient. Plus, we're also now developing partnerships with in the B2B space with corporates and insurance companies, which will eventually help us get business.
Okay. And how the hospital who is partner with you and the doctor in the foreign network, foreign country, they partner with you or on board with TMTC. So, what is their point of view whenever you pitch them the solution, or whenever you try to
See,
onboard them?
obviously UK is going through a healthcare crisis right now with
Yeah,
nearly 8 million people waiting on an NHS wait list with an average wait time of 2 to 3 years, right? So it's difficult. So doctors understand this, that when a patient comes to them, let's say I'm a 65-year-old person, I need a knee surgery. When a patient comes to me, what am I going to say? That okay, yeah, you need a knee surgery, but on the NHS it's a 3-year wait, or you go
that's very
private and
difficult.
it'll
Yeah,
cost you 20, or you'll go private, it'll cost you 20,000 pounds. And when the patient says, actually, I don't have 20,000 pounds to spend, what do I do? The doctor has no answer. We have now become that third viable answer where the doctor is able to say,
correct. Yeah,
okay, don't worry, here's the medical travel company where, on from day one, your journey is going to be coordinated by me or by a UK doctor. You can get the operation done in 3 weeks instead of 3 years, and it is going to cost you 50% less as compared to what you would spend in the UK, and you would get probably better or same quality care that you've got in India, the same or
wow.
better care that you get. So the idea is that is what is driving this. And in India it is not a challenge because obviously people want to get international patients. It just raises the overall profile of the
Yes.
hospital, the country, everything, right? So yeah.
I think, yeah, accessibility in India is very easy. It's not much challenging, but I believe in overall business model, building the trust, saying that, yeah, this is the third option. And as you said, if it's some cheaper than all this private hospital in UK, then people would definitely going to trust you, right? And as soon you will get more testimony or more success story out of the patients, then people will have more awareness also, right? Altogether, it will take time, but at the end of the day, that will drive the business altogether, right? So great, Ankit. And now a couple of quick rapid fire. We have went through many sections. You
Yeah.
explained everything about EMTC, Dineout. So okay, so I would like to ask a question. You can answer in one word or quick one sentence, and that's it. Okay. So
Sure.
build fast or build right, which one wins, you, and why?
So I think build fast, because
Okay.
the faster you build, the faster you learn, the faster you iterate. Because See,
Yep.
build right is I would say is a unicorn. Is like one of those mythical things that doesn't exist, because you will always keep pivoting. You will, something or the other will always keep changing basis consumer, basis industry, everything. So build fast is the mantra.
Okay. Was the first signal that founder will get that this startup will not work or something we have to pivot?
So I think consumer feedback, right? And consumer feedback sometimes is not that someone will come and tell you directly, but the fact that someone has used a product and is not using it again. So
Yeah. So
understanding
active
those,
user. Yeah.
no, so understanding how and why consumers are interacting with the product, are they using, not using. So consumer feedback overall is the, like I would say, not more than feedback, it is the consumer insight, which is the most important thing.
Okay. One leadership lesson you learned hard way in a dino.
Hard, the one thing that I learned in the hard way, in the most expensive way, is always hire right team. It's
Ugh,
everything, it's about the team and people.
yeah.
And one bad hire can spoil a great team. So make sure that the people that you bring on board, especially in the early stage, are the right people, for sure.
So this is answer even we get in earlier podcasts as well with some co-founder and CEO. And even I heard many times when I heard other podcasts or other interaction with other people. So I think that is a very important thing. And for that, one more just follow-up question. What trait do you always look for your first and have?
um I think the most important thing that I would look for is, can they show to me that they have perseverance? Because
Okay.
a startup journey is not a is it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Yep. 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 Yep.
Lot of things will happen, change, go wrong, etc. And you need to make sure that the person who you bring on board is in it with for the long haul and is able to undergo those ups and downs. So perseverance is in my mind the number one trait.
Your definition of success now in a one line, if you want to say, what is it after TMTC and Dino?
Yeah. So I think honestly, for me now, it is about building legacy. So for me, success would be that if I've been able to build a company that outlasts me and is here for the next 100 years, which is helping patients, globally become
Great,
better
great,
faster. Yeah.
great, awesome. And one book you would like to suggest to all the founders?
So yeah, so I'm a voracious reader. I read a lot of books across, obviously, fiction, business, etc. But the one book that I read recently, which stuck with me, and especially the journey of the founder, is a book called Finding Your Virginity, which is on Richard Branson, who's the founder of Virgin Group. And the reason why I say that, it stuck with me is, see, most founders, when we read about them, whether especially whether it's recently, for example, Phil Knight, the of Nike, or whether Finding Happiness, like it's all about
Yeah,
Ubers and all. It's all of the last sort of 15 20 years who built in in the era of internet. But Richard Branson was someone who built in the 80s and 90s, where
correct.
internet
Yeah,
didn't exist. It was done on ground with a lot of hard work, grind, grit. So honestly, that I didn't know that story. So that book and that journey just blew my mind away. So I think I want to recommend that people read about that to understand how hard it was to do things at one point of
yeah.
time. So
Still,
yeah,
they did it. Still, they did it. They
and
built
still
it.
and still and still they did it, and they built brands which have stood the test of time and are today loved
Yeah,
by people and used by people, etc. Right? So yeah, so I think that is something, how they think about the consumer.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just it was just an amazing book.
And even Ankit, at that time, all these frameworks of marketing or branding or people, everything, those frameworks were also not exist, right? Whatever we studied in MBA or something. they somehow build their own. They understand the customer mindset, right? And I think there was the journey for them. They can build something
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good out of it.
And no, no, absolutely. So when I first heard about this, the title was "Finding My Virginity," right? That was the title. That's the title of the autobiography. So I was like, I
Yes.
didn't actually know it is his book. It just I looked at the title and I was like, oh, this doesn't sound this sounds interesting. Let me see what it is. And then when I realized that it is by Richard Branson, I just like obviously bought it immediately. And what a phenomenal book it turned out to be.
Wow, that's a great thing. Thank you so much, Ankit. I think in today's podcast, I think we cater everything about. It's a really great about that. We started from the your initial journey in the UK, what you did, what is the thought process, and I'm glad that we touched that journey. That's where we came to know about your first spark in a 2008, where you think that's something I really wanted to build on my own. How you meet Sahil, how you start building a dine out, what is the scaling part of it, and then how you now after acquisition again that spark is still there, that I am a founder, I want to solve something really great out of it, right? So then you now started about TMTC, right? So great, Ankit. It was a really inspiring journey for many people. There are many takeaways from you, and thank you so much for sharing everything what you did today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Sam, for having me. Pleasure speaking to you, and yeah, all the best for what you're doing. It's bringing more information out of people. So yeah, and hopefully your listeners have a good time watching this.